Hello traders, welcome to the weekly outlook and setups volume 283. As usual, you know what we're going to be doing, diving straight into the market, seeing what happened this week, and most importantly, try to make a forecast for the upcoming week. A lot is ahead of us. The month of May is about to open, so without further ado, let's get into it. Let us start with a quick look at the economic calendar first. Now, Monday, we don't have any news. We have a federal election here for Canada. Could bring in some movements for the CAT, but not very likely. And then on Tuesday, we have job openings here for the US dollar, and then we have consumer confidence. So very nice here, especially for the US session. Even if you're trading futures, this is always a good time. And then on Wednesday, we have a pretty red day. You can see like Aussie CPI, Europe CPI here. We have this preliminary NFP, which definitely tends to drive a lot of volume. Then we have GDP here, employment cost index, PC price index, very important. All right. So Wednesday looks like a pretty big day, and of course on Thursday as well. So if we're trading the yen, we have monetary policy here for Japan. The press conference, we have a bank holiday here within Europe. So if you're trading maybe the Euro USD, potentially want to be a little bit careful on Thursday. But of course, if the US is not in a bank holiday, I have seen a lot of times that it's like a European bank holiday, but of course, US session goes really crazy because we also have manufacturing PMI here. We have unemployment claims for on Thursday. So I'm definitely going to be trading on Thursday. And then of course, Friday, NFP. NFP, of course, this is really your decision. Like, do you trade on NFP? Do you trade before it? Do you trade after it? This is for you to decide. I personally trade after NFP if, of course, there is going to be a setup. I usually prefer to just skip NFP and then, of course, jump on Monday next week, because then usually there is usually a very nice move following the NFP news release. So looks like a pretty good day as usual. Again, guys, your high probability days are going to be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. That is usually when the weekly candle is expanding. So this is always where my focus goes. So of course, with that being said, let's jump into the technicals. There are so many prop firms out there, but the one I prefer is FundedNext. First off, they have multiple plans, but my favorite is the Stellar plan because you actually get paid to pass your challenge, which is a huge incentive to treat it professionally. They offer a 95% profit split and payouts hit your bank account in under 24 hours, or else you get paid $1,000. FundedNext offers competitive profit targets and crazy affordable pricing. Like for just $32, you can control $5,000 account on their Stellar Lite plan. It's crazy value, and they accept all payment methods: credit card, PayPal, even crypto. FundedNext is well established in the UAE with a strong reputation, rated 4.6 on Trustpilot with over 27k reviews. I trade with them, my community trades with them, and we love them. Now it's your turn. Use the link in the description plus code FANATICFN for 120% refund when you pass your challenge. Before we get started, make sure to join my free school community. It's an absolutely incredible, positive community with a lot of value from everybody, and the classroom here is a full course that I've never shared anywhere, so make sure to join. It's the first link in the description. Alright, starting with the DXY, which is falling at multi-year lows. So the last time we were at this price point here was in July 2023, and then the other last time was pretty much in April 2022. So of course, this can be read in a lot of ways. What was really interesting, of course, if you watched my very first outlook of the year, we did speak about this yearly imbalance that we have, and I was curious to see if the market is eventually going to pull back into it, or is it first going to take out the liquidity resting above this high, right? And we can see the yearly candle opened, it swept the previous yearly high, and right now it is coming back into that yearly imbalance. Now, of course, does that mean the market is just going to tap in here and fully reverse? Absolutely not. Okay, but it's a very interesting zone to be observing. Now, of course, the monthly candle is going to close very nicely bearish, and we're pretty much right now at the bottom. We are collecting a lot of liquidity, right? We're collecting this low here. This is the 2023 low. We also collected the 2024 low. So a lot of liquidity is resting here. And of course, transitioning then to the weekly time frame, you can see what is happening when the market is entering into such a very important area, right? You can see that week here expanded very nicely. And then right now we're having two, like this week here, this was the Easter week, extremely choppy. I didn't trade. And then this week you can see we continue to dip a little bit deeper into that yearly imbalance. We are sweeping this weekly swing point here, right? and the market closed a little bit bullish, creating this beautiful as well. Well, this weekly imbalance was created even last week, but we have this weekly bearish imbalance right now, which to me looks pretty juicy for the market to pull back into, and then of course see if we can get any shorts. So even from the weekly time frame, this is kind of a setup that I will be looking for, because again, the dollar right now, we also have to talk a little bit about fundamentals and of course the overall market vibe. Trump has been throwing a little bit of positivity, having a lot of trade talks with different countries, having done deals with more than how many countries he said in a recent tweet. So there has been a little bit of optimism, and as we're going to see later on with the futures market, the indices are starting to recover very nicely. And I would expect maybe something similar to start happening with the dollar, but so far you can see like we have 2 weeks of a little bit of an uncertainty at a very important liquidity level here. Multi-year lows, yearly imbalance. The market is starting to think about what it wants to do next. So I think pretty much within the month of May, as Trump is going to, for example, start announcing, for example, hey, we did a deal with China. We did a deal with Japan. We did a deal with Brazil. We did a deal with Europe, for example. All of these is going to potentially boost the DXY and the stock market. And eventually when the China deal is done as well, that is what I think is going to rocket the market. But of course, back to the technical side. On the daily time frame, you know, I currently use a lot of imbalances, right? Imbalances to me are momentum. They are defining also the trend for me. And you can see here, since this imbalance here that actually tapped and followed through, we haven't had nothing. So we haven't had a daily imbalance here, which again, just to me means consolidation. So if I don't have anything on the daily, but I have this weekly zone, I would potentially be looking for the market to seek that weekly zone. So I'm having a little bit more of a short-term bullish bias into that weekly. And then of course, if we drop to the hourly time frame, there were some nice longs, by the way. My community took a lot of nice profitable trades this week. I was away, unfortunately, that week, but I had 4 profitable day on futures because the timing there was different. We have this imbalance here very nicely holding. We have this one here as well holding, and right now we have the very last one that is forming, which is here. Okay. But again, like usually on Fridays, you tend to get a little bit of a chop, and you can see we are a little bit constricted here. It's kind of starting to look a little bit more like a triangle, failing to take out the high on this push up, and then also failing to take out the low as it was pulling back. So again, guys, as I usually say, and sometimes I get comments like, hey, you didn't tell us where the market's gonna go. I don't know where the market's gonna go, and you don't need to know where the market's gonna go in order to make money. If I see a comment like this, I immediately know that the trader posting this comment is a very close to a beginner. Okay, because of course Monday can open, the market can start printing bearish price action with bearish imbalances. Then of course I'm gonna start targeting the liquidity, and of course if the market fulfills that bullish imbalance here and starts printing new bullish ones, of course breaking structure, then I have my next liquidity targets, which the first one is going to be this high, and then eventually seeking that weekly imbalance. Okay, so again, you can see I'm kind of giving you scenarios. Now, of course, sometimes I am more biased because the market is looking pretty clean. Right now, it's not that clean, especially on the daily time frame, but I do like this kind of V-shaped recovery here. And I do believe that weekly imbalance can definitely get tapped. So I would say I am more bullish on the DXY, but I really need to see that Monday, for example, to show me that the buyers are prevailing, and then hopefully to catch a trade towards that weekly imbalance. So this is my DXY outlook. I am bullish towards that weekly, and of course, if the market decides not to come into the weekly and start breaking structure with imbalances going lower, then guess what? I'm going to be the first one to short it. So again, flow with the market. Let's have a look at EU, but after the extensive outlook we did on the DXY, we probably know what to expect. Now, on this one, we are taking this very important old liquidity here. This is like from 2022. It's a very important monthly swing high. Also tapping kind of the level of 1.15. It came very close to 1.16 as well. The monthly candle is going to close with as a very nice push here, but of course taking a lot of liquidity. So we can expect a potential pullback. Now on the weekly time frame, again, you can see we had, after this very monster weekly candle here, we're currently having 2 weeks of, again, a little bit of indecision. The market continuing to go higher to seek that liquidity. And of course, as it takes liquidity, we would start expecting a potential rebalance, a potential pullback, right? And you can usually see it, for example, here as well, right? The market massively rallies. It also massively rallied here. And then we have like 1, 2, 3 weeks of a consolidation, the market like preparing for the next thing. Okay, and then we have the next leg. Look at that, right? It keeps repeating, massive push up, the market preparing for something. Right now, of course, our next objective will be to potentially pull back. And then of course the next objective after that will be to see if the market is actually going to continue higher. Again, one step at a time. Dropping onto the daily now, why I like EU a lot and why it aligns with what I mentioned on the DXY for a potential long trade into the weekly imbalance. Here we're having a daily bearish imbalance, all right, coming from that sweep of that massive monthly high to the left. We haven't tapped it yet. The market tried to push lower here on Friday, but it failed. So I would love to see something like this. Okay, the weekly candle to open, to make the weekly high, to tap into that daily imbalance, then from there to start driving us towards the weekly. Okay, this is going to be my textbook development for pretty much for this week, but it could happen very quickly, like Monday to Tuesday, and then we can see what is going to happen from the weekly. And then dropping onto the hourly time frame right now, you can see it is in a consolidation. Why? Well, because you see we made the low here on Wednesday. We tried to break it, we cannot. We tried to break it, we cannot. So what is it doing right now, similar to the DXY? Well, it's starting to compress, right? It's not breaking highs, it's not breaking lows, so it is preparing for something, okay? And now again, because I know a lot of you guys want like this, I'm so pissed when somebody asks this, but again, like you always want for me or for somebody else to like give you a specific trade. So for example, I'm gonna tell you right now, okay, EU is short and it's going towards there, but this is really the wrong way to trade and the wrong way to think. So I'm definitely not gonna do this, and I don't care about all the comments saying that I'm not really showing any sort of opinions or like clear biases, because this is not how I trade and this is not what trading is about. But of course, like again, I always have scenarios. My most favorite scenario will be this, all right, taking the liquidity here on the buy side, tapping into that daily imbalance, giving me the short opportunities here on my lower time frame entries within here, and then seeking that liquidity, and then the next target is going to be the weekly imbalance. That's it. All right, that is my textbook development. Now, of course, another different things can happen. This is why, again, you should not have a bias. You should not be super biased. You should just wait for the market to show you where it wants to go, because guess what? The market can open, it can immediately start going bearish. Well, then you have to adapt and like stop, for example, focusing on that daily imbalance, the market pulling back into it, and start focusing what is happening right now. And of course, guess what? The market can massively expand and break above that daily imbalance with a bullish one here. Well, guess what? You're no longer going to be looking for shorts. Right now, you're longs, right? Do you see how many things could happen, right? And then, of course, the market can continue consolidating until some news release comes out, right? You never know what is going to happen in the market. Your job is to literally just show up every single day, see what the market is telling you, and then flow with it. But I'm going to leave it here. This is my favorite outcome. Of course, if you ask me about where I'm more biased towards, I'm more biased towards the short side. These are my two scenarios. Let's see how it plays out and whether we're going to reach that weekly imbalance. GBP/USD pretty bullish. EU used to be a little bit more bullish than GU, but right now, again, like the sentiments are always changing. Here we are traveling very close to that 2024 high, right? The previous yearly high, we just missed it. Maybe on another broker, it actually took it. And again, similar to, for example, the rest of the pairs, we had a little bit of a consolidation here, but unlike the other pairs that had the previous week consolidate, GU also expanded here the previous week. But before that, if you remember, we were tapping in that weekly imbalance. Again, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4 very choppy weeks. And then, of course, you have the catalyst come out and then the market expands. Currently, again, I really like this weekly imbalance. I will definitely say if the market pulls back into it, I will definitely be looking for longs, right? Continuations higher. And then I'm going to drop to the daily time frame. Now here, unlike EU, we do not have a daily bearish imbalance. The market invalidated it with this very strong bullish candle on Thursday, and then Friday inside bar. Okay, so like the very key question right here is the market going to just continue higher from here, right, without tapping the weekly, or is it going to tap the weekly? Now, how do we know? Well, we have to read the lower time frames, which right now are not super clear. Now here we have that similar thing where this low was not taken on multiple occasions, right? And the market is right now starting to consolidate a little bit on the hourly time frame. You can see the very last kind of momentum indication here was that imbalance that actually tapped, pushed, it took the liquidity to the left, right? And then since then you can see we didn't do anything. So currently, again, if I look at this chart and I'm trading live, for example, let's say on a Tuesday, I'm not gonna touch it. Because again, like I don't have anything on the daily right now to show me where the momentum is and who is in control. And then of course I'm gonna drop to the 40 time frame. Okay, who's currently in control here? Well, nobody. It's a consolidation. There are no imbalances created, no highs are broken, no lows are broken. So guess what? Nothing is happening. Now, of course, right now, many things can happen. We can, of course, oh, my mouse stopped. All right, had to change the battery of my mouse. So again, as I said, multiple things can happen, right? We can start getting that bearish introduction, bearish price action to drive us lower into that weekly. Or of course, the other scenario will be to start breaking the highs, again, to start guiding us towards these major highs here. And of course, eventually that 2024 high, right? So again, currently, there is no clear indication. There is nothing on the daily. And if you remember on EU, for example, there is a daily bearish imbalance here, right? So that tells me that, okay, the sellers right now are in control potentially on the daily. That can drive us into the weekly, okay? On GU, we don't have it, which also gives me a little bit more of a 50-50 feeling about EU because they usually tend to move together. But of course, let's see. So of course, if I'm to pick right now between EU and GU, I would pick EU because at least it has a daily imbalance that I can work with. This one doesn't have anything, so what I'm going to be waiting for is just simply more price action. Let it show me where it wants to go, let it start printing these imbalances, let it start breaking highs and closing above them, right, and printing clear structure. That's it for now. GU, I don't have a bias, of course. If I listen to the overall market sentiment, I would say bearish towards that weekly, but of course, the market can definitely do the other thing. Quite a crazy candle here on AU. Massive sweep of these lows here and then a very massive recovery. Now, of course, we are taking this as liquidity right now. That is, what is it? It's kind of a swing high here, February's high. Transferring this on the weekly time frame, we also have a very little bullish indication here. We actually made a weekly bullish imbalance right now. We are taking lots of liquidity, like all of these flat highs here, very strong liquidity point. So we can expect like a reaction. We can potentially even expect a pullback, but having this weekly bullish imbalance really gives me some more confidence that, for example, this here was a sweep, right? We have very strong in and then a very strong out, right? Kind of a V-shape. You can see the V-shape recovery here, massive in and then a massive out. And then this weekly imbalance kind of gives me a little bit more confidence that, okay, this market could potentially start going higher. This means that even the Australian dollar is appreciating against the US dollar. So this really tells us how weak the dollar is right now. Now, of course, if you really look to trade Aussie dollar this week, it was an absolute chop, right? You can see even since kind of these days here, bullish, bearish, then massive wick. No, it's just very choppy. So I haven't touched Aussie dollar in a very long time, but I would say right now, again, something like this would look very good. We have this overall pattern within all the major pairs having that weekly imbalance. Then of course the main question is, are we going to go there and then go long from there, or are we going to expand without it? Now, dropping onto the 40 time frame, this is a very big consolidation here. Now, for example, when you get imbalances but all of them are disrespected, then of course that means consolidation. So here, for example, we had that bullish one, it tried, it failed, then you have that bearish one, invalidated, then you have a bearish again, then a bullish again, a bullish, and then a bearish. This is a consolidation. When you see, for example, this is a very big key tip from me. If you see one imbalance invalidated with another imbalance, right? And then this one is invalidated, immediately consolidation. So if you have a bullish one, and then it validates it with the bearish one, and then the bearish one also fails, right? So it looks like this bullish, and then bearish, right? And then bullish, consolidation. Because kind of there is a lot of momentum in this market, but there is no direction, right? It's indecisive. And this is usually when you get really tricked into taking some stop losses. So, I mean, here we have an extremely tiny imbalance, but very tiny. Structure is a little bit 50-50. It's kind of making lower highs and lower lows. But again, you can see, right? Bullish here, invalidated by a bearish. And then here we also have a bearish here, invalidated by a bullish. And then bullish, bearish, right? It's, what is it? A consolidation. So again, I would say if this market shows me a little bit more bearishness, here you can trade towards that weekly imbalance. Again, this is the overall scenario we have on all the pairs. And of course, if it gives me the buyers, right, and starts breaking above structures like this, then we can start targeting the highs. So that's it, right? Nothing very clear right now, especially like when I see this daily time frame, I know I'm not going to be trading this pair right now because it doesn't give me any clues. And then of course, when you drop to the hourly time frame, when your daily is so choppy, your hourly is of course respectively also going to be choppy. And not to say all the time frames below, they also get choppy. So again, listen to your hard time frames, and when they are choppy, just don't trade. NZUSD, of course, similar development to Aussie dollar. We came in to sweep this very massive, what is this, 2022 low, and we are printing a very, very strong monthly candle. Now we are about to tap into this monthly bearish imbalance. I would say that this is more of a reaction area because it's a very old imbalance, and usually the market doesn't really respond very well from this. So I mean, it's not gonna tap and just fully reverse, right? And then coming on to the weekly time frame, also again very similar to the rest of the major pairs, we are having that weekly bullish imbalance, a very nice indication that the buyers are currently in control on this weekly time frame. But then we drop to the daily, and we can see that the very recent price action is just very indecisive. And then of course I would say, well, let's wait for the market to tap into that weekly. Let's wait for it to show us that it actually wants to go higher, and then we're gonna catch the longs. Okay. Now, if we explore the quality time frame here, again, like you can see the consolidation, overall bearish imbalance here, bullish, bullish, and then suddenly bearish. Like the very last one is this one kind of looks like it's being respected here on Friday. It's getting very close to that weekly imbalance, right? Just like 30 pips away. So I definitely think NU can pull us back into that weekly imbalance. And then again, guys, what I always say, you just have to wait for the market to show you what it wants to do. Don't just say the market is going to tap that weekly and is going to reverse. That's the very wrong language, right? How do you know when this weekly is gonna get respected? But when structure shifts, right? It's that simple, right? Trading is simple, but it's not easy because you make it hard for yourself. So this is my scenario on NZUSD, and of course the other one will be for us to just invalidate that volatile imbalance. If something happens on Monday and the pairs just go absolutely bullish and the DXY drops, then of course there are not going to be pullbacks into these weekly imbalances, and the market is just going to expand. So that is NZUSD. I'm not going to complicate it anymore. Tap into the weekly and then see what is going to happen from there. All right, let's have a look at gold. So many take profit trades this week in my private community on gold. Look at that beautiful monthly candle here. But of course, I have to start making my way onto the weekly time frame. Just keeps creating all-time highs. Again, fundamentally right now, gold is just extremely bullish. It's where the majority of the money right now is flowing, because again, the markets are all about where is money flowing, right? And it's currently flowing into gold as a safe haven asset. Now, we're having weekly bullish imbalances being created here. Of course, these are great pullback areas, and as gold continues to make new all-time highs, we always have to be looking for some sort of a pullback, so then we can have a new all-time high to target. Okay, and then of course right now we can see on the daily time frame, it was kind of a little bit tricky this week, but if you know what to look for on all of your time frames, and you know, for example, what kind of levels to target, you can always find the trade, especially on a volatile instrument like gold. Now, for example, we had these daily bullish imbalances here, and the market tapped into this one, right? And then from there, it kind of tried to push higher, invalidated the new bearish imbalance, which was a pretty bullish sign. But then on Friday, it was very indecisive. So this kind of makes me think, okay, what could be happening next week? Okay, and really looking at these weekly imbalances again, guys, we have this pattern. Well, it's not really a pattern, but it's kind of the current situation across all the major pairs. All of them have that weekly imbalance. All right, and it's a very kind of key question to know: is it going to pull back actually into that imbalance, or are we just going to start carrying on bullish from here? Okay, I would definitely love that flower imbalance. Weekly imbalance pullback. And of course, to know this, we have to consult with the quality time frame. Now, what we have very recently on the flowers is this bearish imbalance. But of course, if we have a look at what has happened before that, okay, we had a bullish one here. It tapped in, it actually took its liquidity, and then we had this bullish one here. It invalidated with a bearish one, and right now we're pulling back into the bearish one. But I wouldn't be surprised if Monday opens, all right, and it actually forms a bullish one here. So what is this starting to look like? A little bit like a consolidation. Okay, now if the market opens very bearish and invalidates here a new hourly bullish imbalance, then that can very easily then drive us into that weekly. And then from there again, guys, right, don't just the market is not just gonna tap a weekly imbalance and just absolutely rock it. We had such a situation in one of these there it is. So we had here, for example, weekly imbalance, And yeah, this time the market, well, again, you can see it just tapped in once, pulled back, tapped in twice, pulled back, tapped in 3 times. All right, so it kind of, you can see how always the market is going to spend a little bit of time inside these imbalances, and then it just rocketed with the catalyst. Okay, so don't expect right now that the market is just gonna tap in here and absolutely rocket. Okay, you have to wait for the market to show you that it's actually going to rocket. Okay, so currently this is what we can work with. Okay, it's not the best. There is nothing much on the daily right now. Like, we didn't create any new imbalances this week, pretty much, but we're having these weekly bullish ones below us. The weekly time frame is a very nice kind of pin bar rejection, which really makes me think it could be easy for the market to pull back into these weekly. So I would say my very favorite setup on gold will be, of course, if we pull back into that weekly imbalance, and then from there I will start observing for the order flow and the structure to shift bullish, and then of course start targeting new all-time highs. But of course, gold is not going to do that if the fundamentals change. If the dollar starts getting a little bit more optimism, right? If Trump has some good news for us, then of course investors could start positioning a little bit more of their money into the dollar. Okay, so that is what we have right now. I'm really curious to see how this volatile imbalance here is going to do. If it starts holding, there could be a very quick short trade into the weekly. Okay, but of course, if it fails and if it starts going higher, right, then it starts really printing some bullish price action, breaking and closing above that high. So for example, something like this, all right, and then print something bullish right here, then that can also be a long setup. So then of course, don't get married to that weekly imbalance, because it doesn't always pull back. If it starts showing you the bullishness, you follow it. Okay, so that's gold for now. Of course, I will maintain my bullish stance on gold over the long term until, of course, the fundamentals change. And these are my two scenarios for gold right now. All right, let's check out the JPYs. Now, USD JPY got very close to taking out this 2024 low, but it just stopped below it, and it's currently making a little bit of a pullback. Now, of course, how does that look on the weekly time frame is very similar again to the DXY. We have that weekly bearish imbalance that the market is getting very close. Yeah, very close to tapping in. So I do think we can definitely tap it in. And then, of course, you can see on the way up, we also have that daily bullish imbalance, right? So this is going to be eventually, if the market actually taps that weekly and starts reversing, this daily imbalance is definitely going to be very important to monitor. And yeah, so that's how the daily looks like. And then transferring onto the 4 hours. Pretty nice. We had that very large fall imbalance here. The market made a very slow pullback, then it expanded for a high. Yet another imbalance here that actually got tapped here on Friday, and then we took out the liquidity, and right now ended up a little bit here high and on the higher side, consolidating. So this one is tough, honestly, right? It's having a lot of that very recent bullishness, right? That is going to be very hard to fight. Okay, so we can't just say, all right, the market's gonna tap that weekly and just suddenly boom, it's gonna flush. Like there has to be a super big catalyst for that. And we have interest rates, monetary policy from Bank of Japan, so we should definitely observe USD JPY this week. But of course, like something like this, tapping into the weekly and then starting to print bearish price action, okay, is going to be, of course, like a favorite setup of mine. But we should be really open-minded to what is happening recently, right? Buyers really took control, hourly bullish imbalances, daily bullish imbalances, weekly not yet, right? But I do see a lot of buyers starting to enter USD JPY, or is it just some profit taking after that very massive drop? Because I mean, here we consolidated like crazy. We made a very nice low, and then right now is this profit taking in order for the market to right now continue going lower? We're gonna see this week, because we also have that monetary policy. So this is going to be my favorite setup, all right? And of course, I can give you multiple scenarios of what could happen. The market can also open bearish, tap into the daily, and then of course tap into the weekly, react and also reverse. That could also be the bullish scenario. This is why, again, as I always say, right, doing an analysis on Saturday is not very it's not very, I don't want to say it's not beneficial or productive, because it is. But for example, on Monday when you open, if the market gaps down or if the market does something a bit different to what you expected, you always have to adapt. Okay, so this is how I'm gonna leave it. I am more bearish biased on USD JPY because, again, the USD is still continuing to be a weak currency. Money is also flowing in the yen as well, as we have seen pretty much within the last Yeah, pretty much since the start of the year, it has been pretty bearish. So I do believe this can just be a pullback into that weekly imbalance in order for the market to continue going lower and attack that 2024 yearly low. But of course, before we get there, wait for the market to just simply enter a downtrend, because currently it's going up on the hourly time frame. Wait for the hourly time frame to get down, and then of course we're gonna short it. So let's see how that's gonna work out. Let's quickly go through EJ and GJ. Here, the monthly candle not as big, so it doesn't tell us as much. Weekly time frame as well. Two choppy candles. Again, I just hate Euro, JPY, and GJ. I really struggle to have an outlook on these kind of pairs, so I'm not touching them at all, and I really want to stop analyzing them, but you guys keep asking for them. Like, how the hell are you gonna trade all of that, then just a massive wick down, and then it just continues in the same range? Like, this to me is just not tradable. There is not a single daily imbalance. The last daily imbalance that was created was here, and that one failed. So since pretty much March, 19th of March, all the way until May, right, it hasn't done anything on the daily, right? And that means that the 40 time frame is also going to be absolutely choppy. So guys, this is not a pair that I would even analyze. It's a waste of time. Now you can jump even onto the 40 time frame, and you can even see it's going up, right? But there is no momentum. There are no imbalances here. Just chop, 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 chop. The very first one we kind of got was here, and it's super tiny. And right now we're getting this, but this is definitely not something that I would take a long from, because it just took the liquidity here. I don't like it, guys. I mean, I don't know what to expect here. We can continue going higher to attack, like, for example, that liquidity high, but it doesn't give me any sort of signs for it. Like, if it starts making some daily imbalances, like for example something like this here, definitely not gonna be bad maybe, but to me, trading EJ and GJ is just very unproductive right now, and I really wouldn't be surprised if, like, for example, somebody who's very fixated on trading EJ or GJ is having a very hard time right now. So again, guys, sometimes it's not you, sometimes it's actually the market you're trading. So if you're trading pairs like this that are absolutely chopped up, really consider what you're doing. I really have nothing to say on this one. I would say here on the shorter term, it has been a little bit more bullish. So if we kind of do get some pullbacks, you can look for some longs. That is kind of an outlook that I can make. But again, seeing what is happening before that, right, it doesn't give me a lot of confidence at all. So that's EJ. GJ, once again, on the monthly time frame, we're trading in a consolidation, right? It's been quite a couple of months that, of course, if you zoom out a little bit, for example, GJ has had its good times, very nicely appreciating here. Again, a year of a consolidation, then again, very nicely appreciating. Currently, it's in that consolidation phase. We just have to wait to see what's gonna come in next. Here we have that weekly bearish imbalance that we're coming in this week, all right? But it's coming in a very bullish manner. So we really have to observe what is happening, for example, on the daily. It again consolidated here for an eternity until finally this week, actually. This week we had a little bit more because the pound right now is getting a little bit stronger. We're having a daily bullish imbalance into that weekly, and on Friday we actually had a little bit of a pop higher. Now there is a lot of resistance on that pair. Like, if you want to look for longs on GJ, there is a lot of resistance, right? There is that daily order imbalance. We're also tapping into the weekly bearish. So there is a lot of red, you can see here, a lot of resistance. I would appreciate if there is, for example, a new daily imbalance to form here on Monday. Okay, if we form a new daily imbalance on a Monday, and then the market can pull back into it to trade it higher, that could be nice, all right? And then on the 40 time frame, yeah, it's not that bad. I mean, this one, looking at it, it's not that bad. Here we had a quality that was respected. Here we have this one that was respected this week. So not bad. It's definitely a lot better than what EJ was. EJ was absolutely choppy. This one a little bit better. But still, right now, you should be aware that we're entering into a lot of resistance. But of course, looking at the recent sentiment, it seems like the pound is getting a little bit strength. For example, it's JPY pair, which is of course GJ for GU, is also appreciating a little bit more. But again, which one would you prefer, right? Would you prefer, for example, GU right now, that is looking very clearly bullish and it has a very clear area, but also consolidated a little bit right now? Or would you prefer GJ, that is currently trending higher, but it has a lot of hard time frame resistance? Okay, well, I would pick GU, because GU on the hard time frame, it's a lot cleaner and it has a very clear bias. So when it comes to here, Looking at this very recent order flow, I would say I'm more bullish now. Are we going to pull back into that daily? I would definitely like to do so, but that is not formed yet. That is what can happen after Monday closes. And currently we have that very tiny hourly zone. Now, of course, am I just going to jump on market open to trade from that very tiny hourly zone? Absolutely not. So again, like for a pair like this, you have to give it time. You have to see what is going to happen. You have to see who is going to take control. Because again, like imagine I was doing an analysis here on last week, right? And it was looking like this, right? I could have said, I would wait for the market to tap into the weekly. This is very likely what I would have said. Wait for the market to tap into the weekly and then look for shorts, right? And then look what happens, right? It eventually came in, okay, but it didn't get respected. Why? Well, guess what, right? You drop to the daily and you start seeing some bullishness here, some daily bullish imbalance being created. You drop to the hourly time frame, you see the bullish imbalance is also starting to be created, right? Here, respected, here, respected. So guess what? I'm not short bias anymore, right? This is why I always tell you, right? Don't draw too many forecasts, don't draw too many expectations, just wait for, because again, I expected this. And if I just waited for this, I would have taken a short from here and I would have lost without paying attention to what is happening actually right now. Okay, so take this lesson. Once again, I'm going to keep mentioning in every single outlook. It's not important to make forecast. It's important to flow with the market and what it tells you. Currently, the buyers are in control, but if the market opens and starts printing some bearish price action, I'm absolutely going to short it. All right, so let's see how it goes. All right, welcome to the futures part. We're currently in an earnings season and the market is moving very, very, very nicely. I'm having so far a profitable month in terms of the futures, also profitable for Forex as well. But we're having a very crazy monthly candle here on ES, taking a lot of liquidity, tapping, for example, into that very last monthly imbalance is where I bought a lot of S&P, and it's already looking like you can see already 13%, for example, of profit if you bought an ETF down there. Now we're going to potentially close with a monthly bearish imbalance after 4 days, which is going to be very interesting, but we're going to look at that next week. And if we have such a big wick, the market tends to fill these big wicks, for example, around 50%. So we can expect that the market is going to drop a little bit more, right? But what is really interesting right now is the weekly. Okay, the weekly is just right now about to tap into a lot of resistance. So we're having that weekly imbalance. We're having this very small buy candle that is kind of a supply zone. And we're tapping into this, but what I really like and why I think we could have potentially found the bottom of this kind of crash, if you can call it that, is we are having a higher low formation, a market structure shift, and we're also taking out, for example, that high. Okay, that creates a low, a high, a higher low, and a higher high. That kind of gives us a little bit more confirmation of a trend. However, right, it's not so certain yet, because if you zoom out a little bit, that can still very simply be a grab of liquidity into the weekly imbalance, and then the market can potentially attack, for example, this low, which is something that I think could potentially happen, especially if the monthly candle closes with a wick like this. The market will like to open a little bit bearish. So check out, for example, that one. There is like that massive wick and the market opened and it pretty much pulled back into roughly, like, it doesn't have to be 50%, but there is going to be, for example, the next monthly candle is going to open. It's probably going to go a little bit bearish, right? And then it could potentially start flipping, but we, of course, don't know this. And then dropping onto the daily time frame, like taking longs this week was very nice. Again, Monday opens, goes a little bit bearish, but there is no bullish zones. Then Tuesday goes bullish. Then we had a gap here, so then I traded from the gap longs on Thursday, and then Friday was a pretty choppy day here. So currently we actually don't have any daily imbalances to work with in terms of the long side. So kind of, again, like, especially for indices, especially for futures, what I keep saying for Forex is even more true, even to an extreme, right? Don't draw forecasts. Don't think where the market's gonna go. Just show up in New York Stock Exchange open, wait for around 30 minutes for the opening range to set, and then the market is literally going to show you where it wants to go. It's easy, right? But it's simple, but not easy, right? Now here, of course, we have that hourly imbalance. This is, I was looking for longs on Friday, but unfortunately, this kind of move happened a little bit earlier, and it didn't really provide me some clear setups. We're taking the liquidity here, and right now, how are we closing? We're closing without fresh zones to be trading from, and we're tapping again into that very strong resistance area. So again, like, guys, can I make a forecast here? I really cannot say that the market is going to reverse from here, because that would be really stupid for me to say it, right? I don't know, and nobody knows. Like whoever tells you the market's gonna sell off from here, they're a dump and they're a beginner, right? With excuses, right? I cannot say that it's also gonna continue going higher because I don't have a bullish zone, right? We tapped into that volatile time frame zone. This volatile time frame zone already did its job, and the job of a zone like an imbalance is to take the liquidity. We tapped in from imbalance to liquidity, and right now again, guess what? We have to just wait for a new imbalance to expand higher, pull back, and then the cycle repeats. Okay, now do I see a push lower? Definitely could be, okay, but that is going to be just some fresh kind of price action because we don't have any zones. Like for example, I don't see a reason for the market to be pulling back. If there is, for example, a bullish imbalance here, then I will definitely say, okay, we can pull back into that bullish zone. But right now we don't have a bullish zone and we're encountering a lot of resistance. So a little bit uncertainty right now as usual, okay? But as I keep saying, wait for the market to open and it's gonna show you what it wants to do. Okay, so this is how the S&P looks like right now. I'm going to be very cautious of all of that struggle area here to the left. Now, if we start breaking above highs like this and highs like that, I would definitely start getting super confident that we can start reaching the all-time highs. Okay, but still currently, although we're having that very nice recent bullish shift, like it even started from here with this kind of higher low and then the market breaking this as a higher high, and then still like the market pulls back and makes even a major higher low and still also breaks for a higher high. This to me is a very nice bullish indication. Okay, so I'm starting to go more towards bullishness on the indices, but I still think we might have a little bit of a drop to fulfill that monthly candle wick, and then from there we might start looking for the full bullishness if of course Trump starts giving us some good news. So that is the ES. No immediate zones to kind of work with right now. So again, I'm gonna be waiting for Monday to pass, form some zones, see where the market wants to go, and then of course I'm gonna keep flowing with it every single day. Nasdaq pretty much the same, they move in tandem. We're having that very massive monthly candle, sweeping a lot of liquidity, tapping into this very last kind of monthly support area here, also printing a monthly bearish imbalance, which is going to be very interesting to trade. Now here we don't have on Nasdaq, we don't have a weekly bearish imbalance, which is super interesting, which means that the market can more easily on Nasdaq move to the highs because it doesn't have that very strong resistance area like ES has. And you can immediately see it, guys, right? You can see on ES we did not have a daily bullish imbalance. Nasdaq has it, which makes it right now super clear and super interesting. We are breaking above that high, again confirming that potential higher low even on the daily. Okay, and right now, of course, the next targets start becoming pretty evident. This high and then eventually this high. And here we have a daily imbalance. So again, right now, what I can say, well, do we have something on the volatile time frame right now to push price higher? We actually, no, we don't. All right. So I can say, well, a very nice weekly development will be for the market to create a low, tap into that daily, and then from there starts trading to the highs and of course attack some liquidity targets. That would be a very easy call, right? And looks pretty good. But of course, like for indices, you always have to monitor what is happening, to monitor who is in control, to monitor, for example, the earnings season right now and the companies that are being releasing their earnings, to monitor the news, of course, and the recent shifts of sentiment. It is tough, right? But that is my outlook for Nasdaq. I'm bullish. I really see that macro shift of structure. I do see some buyers are really starting to enter into the market. It's of course on the buy side is always going to be a little bit slower than on the sell side. The sellers, usually the fear is always really crashing very hard, but of course when it's on an uptrend, it goes very stable. Okay, like you can see again here, massive drop, but then the uptrend, stable, 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 right? And then it drops again, and then again keeps growing stable. So again, I think we're kind of entering into this sort of situation right now, this sort of bullishness. So I'm gonna keep longing, and of course that daily imbalance is going to be very key for me next week. But again, Trump can come in and say we didn't reach a deal, boom, bearish imbalance, I'm gonna be short. Okay, so always flow with the market. And YM US30 also the same, tapping us into that monthly imbalance, a pretty bearish candle. Actually, this one looks like it's the weakest of all. Weekly time frame as well, like it has that weekly imbalance. For example, ES is tapping it, Nasdaq does not have it, while YM is still really not even close to it. And yeah, on the daily time frame, a little bit chopped up here, right? We had that gap, the market filled the gap, and it's not even breaking the high. So if you're trading US30, a little bit chopped up here, right? Which kind of gives me a little bit lack of confidence, for example, for the other two pairs. Now, of course, here we have that forward imbalance that the market is still working from, and it could attack these highs. Now, if YM as well starts picking up some steam, you always have to be monitoring all the three indices, because the correlation between them also offers you a little bit of an edge. Sometimes it could be very confusing when you see, for example, US 30 right now struggling to break higher, while NASDAQ is breaking and ES is kind of in the middle. Usually ES is always going to be kind of in the middle between NASDAQ and YM, while NASDAQ it's kind of a little bit on its own. It's not that directly impacted by the Dow, all right? So that's kind of what we're looking for right now. We're having that very recent, again, shift of to bullishness, but overall, YM is the weakest. So if you're looking to long YM, if you're looking to trade YM on the long side, I would recommend you probably move to NASDAQ or ES, because they are a little bit more bullish. But if this one also starts to pick up to the upside and start attacking that weekly imbalance, that can bring in a lot more confidence, for example, on NASDAQ and ES, to also continue their push higher. So let's see if this one, it's already tapping into that forward imbalance. It's already ongoing, so it can still take out the liquidity. You can even look for longs, okay? But again, I would prefer to trade the other two. DAX is also starting to give us a little bit more confidence, tapping into these monthly bullish imbalances here. But yeah, it actually went quite deep here to take out this low, right? As liquidity, did it actually take it? Yeah, I think it did. And then just massively recovered. Like, look at that monthly candle. That is a crazy monthly candle. And of course, like for next week and for the next month, I would expect that the market is going to open a little bit more bearish to fill a little bit of that wick and then potentially start moving higher. It's going to be very nice, especially if we have a weekly bullish imbalance here. But look at how fast this one is responding. Right now, we're having that weekly bearish, but the market doesn't really look like it's caring about that weekly bearish. It's just closing very strongly inside. Now, we have this reaction area here as well, but I bet on the daily we're having a lot of bullishness here. Yeah, we do. Like, there's that gap that wasn't even filled. And even here, we have a daily bullish imbalance. So really oh, do we? It looks a very, very, very small one, right? This one is also very nicely shifting higher, right? It kind of feels like that crash is over and we're really starting to recover very fast right now, because again, usually the harder the crash, the quicker the recovery, right? If you're having a very slow downtrend to the downside, right? Then usually it's going to take a very long time for it to recover. But right now this was very fast, so the recovery is also going to be very fast. So really showing me the longs on the DAX here. Now, it was a little bit 50-50 here if we look at it last week, but again, it opened here on, it actually opened all the way on Tuesday because it was a holiday, expanded, gapped, and it just keeps expanding. So if you're trading, for example, DAX, right, look at these forward imbalances here, tapping in, continuing. Currently, we don't have one, especially on the forward time frame, but looking at that very recent sentiment, it gives me confidence, for example, to start longing DAX, right? If it starts giving you some sort of pullbacks into daily imbalances, into forward imbalances, then definitely continue to long it. Just, of course, be aware of this weekly reaction area as your first target that could potentially give the market a little bit of a pullback, right? And then, of course, look for your daily imbalances. If this one continues to make daily imbalances, the confidence to continue going long will be even bigger. Okay, so that's looking pretty good, giving me also confidence for the US indices, showing me that overall, for example, investors are not so fearful anymore and buyers are going to start getting in, because we went from very extreme fear, and right now, as the confidence kind of starts getting back in shape, a lot more people are going to start investing back into the market, and that is when we're going to start entering into very big uptrends. Okay, so DAX also looking pretty good for longs. Any sort of pullback here into daily imbalances or into forward imbalances are going to be a potential long opportunity. Of course, watch out the fundamentals, because if EU and the US don't reach a deal or something like this, DAX could also crack down. All right, let's very quickly recap. Now, of course, on all the majors, we have that weekly imbalance, all right? On the DXY, it's a bearish weekly imbalance. And of course, the very key question is the market going to guide us into that weekly imbalance? And then, of course, from there, resume the overall trend. So, for example, EU also has that weekly bullish imbalance. So, of course, I would definitely love to trade short into it, but I'm only going to do so if the market actually shows me that it wants to go bearish. And we have that daily imbalance on EU to help us get there. GU is a little bit 50-50. Again, you can see we're in a consolidation right now. So again, is it going to go down or is it going to start going up immediately? We have to wait and see. Aussie dollar and NZD dollar also have that weekly bullish imbalance, right? So trading into it is an opportunity. And then of course, trading out of it is going to be even the better opportunity. And then gold as well, right? Weekly bullish, and in fact, even 2 weekly bullish. So is the market going to pull back into these and then start going long from here? Or is it going to immediately pop higher? Those are, of course, guys, all the scenarios that I always give you because we always have to flow with the market. USD JPY also doesn't look very bad, but you have to be monitoring for the Bank of Japan monetary policy to see how that is going to reflect into the market. We're having a weekly bearish imbalance again, similar to the DXY, weekly bearish. And if the market taps in here, we really have to observe whether we're going to turn into a downtrend, okay? Because the very recent kind of sentiment has been bullish, but that can very quickly change if it's just a pullback, okay? So overall short bias on UJ. EJ and GJ, very tricky. They also have that very similar kind of bullish bias here within the very recent 1 or 2 weeks, but that can very quickly end. If USD JPY starts going down, it's going to drag these two with it. Indices is a little bit tricky, but I do see that very recent shift to bullish order flow. And of course, if we continue getting good earnings for the companies, if Trump surprises with some more deals with different countries, I do believe the stock market is about to recover, targeting, of course, first 5,800 here. And these sort of 2 highs is going to be my first target. And of course, currently we're having daily bullish imbalances, hourly bullish imbalances. If the market continues to go higher, I will keep going higher. And my favorite one currently is NASDAQ, because NASDAQ has a daily bullish imbalance here to potentially guide us into the highs. And it's overall the most bullish index, while for example YM is still really lagging behind. It's not tapping into the weekly, it's not really moving higher, it's actually making lower highs here while the other ones are making higher highs. So very sketchy why YM is doing this, but we're going to see what's going to happen next week. And DAX also starting to give us a little bit more confidence for the long side. In fact, it's a lot stronger than the US indices, making it very attractive to potentially be traded. All right. So that's it. My main highlight is, of course, going to be the weekly imbalances on the Forex pairs, and of course, trying to trade into them if the opportunity presents, and then of course, trying to trade out of them. And of course, gold, right? Gold has been incredible for me and my community. So I'm going to be looking for the market to tap into this weekly, and then looking for the shift higher to potentially capitalize on another very nice push like this. But it's going to be very important to be monitoring the DXY. Okay, because if the DXY starts regaining some confidence, if the market starts entering into a little bit of an uptrend, that can immediately impact gold. Okay, so watch out for these things. Let me know, guys, how you performed this week. Let me know what is your favorite setup for the upcoming week as well, and I'm gonna update you on the next video.